Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance. And this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous. And here is her story. Hi, Ollie. Thank you for what you do. I've been watching your videos for the past month or so, and they really help me feel less alone in my situation. My husband is wonderful and very supportive, but as you know, unless someone has been through this shit, they really can't understand it on a very deep level. Here is my story. I am a 51-year-old woman, and I have one older brother whom I call Asshole. He and I always fought as children. He gaslighted me and was the golden child, whereas I was the scapegoat. He did a lot of shitty things to me, and I grew to hate him due to his character. He was the most self-centered person I had ever met. I barely tolerated him for a really long time. But approximately 6 years ago, Asshole finally got on my last nerve. And I went off on him at a get-together at my parents' house for my mother's birthday. I told him to get the fuck out of my life. Fortunately, he has. At the time of this incident, I didn't know anything about narcissism. I told him he had a sign over his head that said, "What's in it for me?" Now I know the sign more concisely said, "I am a narcissist." Anyway, since then, I have avoided Asshole like the plague, and we arranged Father's Days and Mother's Days, so we celebrated these holidays with our parents separately. Asshole would go to their house on Saturday before the holiday, and I would go on the actual holiday, or vice versa, depending on our schedules. Yeah, like the Godfather. When you see our mother, I want to know about it a day ahead of time. At the few family functions I have seen Asshole, I have not acknowledged his existence. 3 years ago, I started to go to therapy to deal with some issues I was having, including my third episode of depression. I was put on an antidepressant, which I am finally weaning myself off of, and was treated for an eating disorder in an intensive outpatient program. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, eating disorders always lead back to your mother. Always. Always some competition with your mother. I only recently realized that my mother is a covert, ignoring narcissist, and that her treatment of me has been the root of many of my emotional issues. Exactly. Between the ages of 7 and 12 years, my parents took me to a doctor who diagnosed me with minimal brain dysfunction. I don't even know what that is. Which is what they called ADD or ADHD at the time. There you go. Typical boomer mother bringing her children in to get doped. Bringing her Gen X child in to get doped up on Ritalin. That's what we got going on here. Mind you, my mother couldn't stand me. I have my report cards from elementary school. They say I was anxious and wrote messily, but they don't mention hyperactivity. It was just an excuse so that my mother could get me put on a drug that would hopefully sedate me so that her 18-year prison sentence could be made less intolerable. Typical baby boomer. I have the medical records from my entire childhood and notes my father wrote about the timeline and all of the horrible side effects the drugs caused me. By the way, that doctor put me on 15 different medications during that 5-year period. These drugs included antipsychotics, seizure medication, tricyclic antidepressants, benzos, and of course, Ritalin and dioxin, equaling methamphetamine. Methamphetamine was given to me at least 3 times the recommended dose, which caused my jaw to quiver uncontrollably. I only recently realized, besides the obvious facts, that I have never had a seizure or a psychotic episode. These medications were all unwarranted, and since they didn't help, I obviously didn't have any conditions that they are used to treat. It was my mother that needed to be medicated, but she gaslighted me into thinking I was defective. When I was little, my mother told me I was born to keep the mistake, i.e. asshole, company, because she was an only child and hated it. So, your brother, asshole, she already labeled the mistake, and this is a golden child, and she had you to keep him company. He may be a golden child, but he's got one hair better treatment than you did. She told me at the age of 5 that she was going to kick me out on my 18th birthday. I'm sure you can imagine the years of anxiety that caused. Every birthday meant I only had X amount of time before I had to get out. Yep. I mean, I always lived under the threat of being sent away, sent the boys down to and straight anxiety. It makes you feel like you're just disposable and can be thrown away at any given time. Whenever she got angry at me, I had to hear about how miserable I made her and how much of her 18-year prison sentence was left. Fuck off, boomer. 2 days before my 18th birthday, she woke me up early in the morning and told me to get my shit out of her house. I moved everything onto my friend's patio. Now, mind you, you cut your brother out of your life, not this bitch. And where's your father? Where's your father's just letting this happen on your 18th birthday? Where's he in all this? On my 18th birthday, I moved into another friend's house. My mother was so proud that she made good on her promise. When I had been out of the house for 4 months, I asked to go home and start college. All growing up, the golden child asshole was told he could either 1, go to college, 2, move out and get a minimum wage job, or 3, join the military. College had never been an option for me because my mother just wanted me gone. But after 4 months of being out of her beloved house, she allowed me to move back in and go to college. For the next 4 years, I was allowed to sleep in what had previously been my room to use. Mind you, it had never been my room because I hadn't paid for it. It had always been her house, and I had always been a guest in it. The room I had use of during my childhood had since been converted into a den, so I slept on the couch and lived in it, and lived out of 4 boxes and 2 drawers of a filing cabinet. Yet, your brother's the asshole. Asshole moved back in. Also, he had slept in the garage because the room he was previously allowed to use had been converted into an office the minute he had moved out, when he took option 2 above a few years before then. Asshole and I rented a storage locker for a while, and later we bought a shed, which is still in my parents' yard to this day. There are many things my mother did, but I think you get the idea. I was always made to feel like an unwanted burden and an inconvenience, and that there was something horribly wrong with me. I felt guilty for making my mother's life miserable, and that I could never be good enough. I tried to be a good daughter, but of course it was impossible to make her happy. Raised thrown out at 18 like a foster child. Where is your father in all this? Why have kids? Why have kids in the first place? Well, your brother was a mistake, so now you got to have something to make up for the mistake, because she don't want to take care of her mistakes. The boomer never wants to take care of their mistakes, responsibilities, i.e. children, i.e. us. And you wonder why Gen X is so fucked up? Put on Ritalin for no reason and antipsychotics for no reason, so these fucking boomer losers can go fucking have their own selfish lives. Meanwhile, you're kicking your brother out of your life, and he may be a fucking narcissistic asshole. He may be. But he ain't the one who threw you out of the house on your 18th birthday. He ain't the one who's been terrorizing you since you were 5 years old. Tried to be a good daughter, but of course it was impossible to make her happy. Here are a few examples. My parents have a motorhome and go on trips approximately 5 to 6 months out of the year. Asshole lives about 10 miles farther from my parents' house than I do. For that reason, supposedly, my husband and I have been the ones designated to go to their house and take care of their shit when they're on vacation. For 5 to 6 months, you're taking care of a house your mother was threatening to throw you out of since you were 5 years old and then did it on your 18th birthday. This has involved watering their plants, running their old piece of shit car that they have since gotten rid of, winding a clock they weren't there to look at, and stamping dates on their mail and putting it in the box to send to them. Doing all these chores took a few hours every 1 to 2 weeks. The day after going to their house, I would need to take their box of mail to the post office and get a tracking number for it. Then I would need to call my parents with the tracking number so they could know when to pick the box up at whatever random post office I was told to send it to. Sometimes they would nag me and tell me to make sure it got sent out early because they might have to sit at the dirt campsite an extra day if I didn't inconvenience myself and get the box to the post office before I had to be at work. This went on for about 15 years. 15 years you did this. Until recently, told my father that he could hire the golden child to do it from now on. Exactly. So your father's around. Where was your father during all this abuse? Where is he? In 2017, I took my mother to Oahu and Maui in the ludicrous hope that we could bond and that I could prove to her that I am not the piece of shit that she's always made me feel I am. I am on that trip. Her disdain for me was palpable. The more you try to prove to the baby boomer that you're not garbage, the more they're going to make you feel like garbage. You are never going to be good enough for the baby boomer. They are never going to get off that fucking entitled high horse they sit on. I know you told me your mother's in her mid-70s, your father's in his 80s, you're not sure if they're boomers. They're boomers. They're boomers. My parents have health problems, which are mostly diet related, so I arranged for them to go out, for them to go to a 10-day live-in program to address their issues. My father appreciated it and told me so, but his wife didn't even say thank you. Mostly have health problems, which are diet related, and you had eating disorders. In the past, I took my mother to a hot spring spa a few times so that we could bond. She didn't seem to appreciate it. Over the years, my mother had surgery to remove her right superior lung lobe due to lung cancer, and my father was hospitalized for 2 total hip replacements and pneumonia. I was there for both of my parents for these issues. I have gone to a few of their doctor's appointments for moral support. Golden child asshole was not there for them because, as I said before, there was nothing in it for him. He was too busy with his own, obviously more important things. Well, why should he be there for them? Why should he be there after they didn't treat him any more that much better than he treated you? He's the smart one. What have they done for either of you to do anything for them? Nothing. Don't be mad at him for having the intelligence to stay away. Be mad at them for fucking the two of you up. This past November, I took my mother with me to one of my therapy appointments in the futile hope that we could possibly salvage our relationship. She showed her true colors and made an ass out of herself. I was in tears when my therapist pointed out to her that I was in tears. She callously said, "Oh, she always cries like that." In December, I tried to make my mother understand my feelings one more time. I wrote her a letter that was recommended in one of the several books I have read about unloving mothers. It had 4 parts. Never, ever write them a letter. They're just going to use it against you. They're just going to twist it against their masters at this. They're masters at this. The letters had 4 parts. 1, this is what you did to me. 2, this is how I felt about what you did to me at the time. 3, this is how it affected my life. And 4, this is what I want from you now. I went to her house and read it to her. Before I walked out, about halfway through it, she justified everything she did and further emphasized her disgust and disdain for me. When I came back and finished reading her the letter, she had nothing to say until the end, at which time she ripped out a letter that she had written to her dead mother, but had never read to her. So you know what that tells me? If she's writing letters to her dead mother, then that she knows what her mother did to her was fucking wrong. So that means she knows what she did to you was fucking wrong. And now she's trying to use the typical boomer excuse. I was abused too. Fuck off, cunt. You made the decision here. You grown-ass adult. As a grown-ass adult, you made the decision to behave this way. She proceeded to read to me her letter. I mentally curled up into a ball like I did as a child. After sitting through her letter, dumbfounded, I went to the room where my husband was, in tears. She came in and read her letter to my husband. I should have known she would have somehow made it all about her, but I was flabbergasted nonetheless. Then she made excuses for everything she had done to me and said that I shouldn't let what other people say ruin my life. She said that I was sensitive and that the past is not important. Gaslighting 101. Gaslighting 1. Don't worry about the past. It ain't important. Yeah, it is, bitch. If the past isn't important, then why did she write a letter to her mother? If the past isn't important, then why did she write a letter to her mother? I know that this was classic narcissism, but this was the last straw. She went on to tell me, I need to be the most important person to myself. And she's being honest with you there. Because she's telling you, I don't give a shit. You need to be the most important person to yourself. Because I don't give a shit about you. She's being, for the first time in her fucking miserable life, she's actually being fucking honest with you. I don't give a shit. You got to be the most important person to yourself because it ain't going to come from me. I asked her 3 times if I was important to her, and she just kept saying I needed to be the most important person to myself. Yeah, she was answering you. You're not important to her. You're not important to her. You're just a pawn. You're just a tool. She should have just had the balls to tell me I wasn't important to her, because that's clearly what her evasive answer told me. She was telling you that. She just didn't want to say the fucking words, but that's exactly what she told you. My husband got us out of there after that. I was devastated and have not talked to my mother since then. After that incident, I tried to maintain a relationship with my father after my most recent conversation with him 5 days ago, I think I'm done with him too. You should have been done with him at 18. You should have been done with him when he allowed your mother to use and abuse you your entire fucking life. What kind of father allows his daughter's wife to throw his daughter out on his 18th birthday? Who does that? I have talked to my father several times since the December incident with my mother, and excluding one conversation, I have had to hear about what a wonderful person his wife is because she signed me up for the Evelyn Wood speed reading course when I went through my second episode of depression while I was an undergrad and had to temporarily withdraw from school. I have an upper level degree in a career I worked very hard to secure, but my father makes it sound like my hard work has nothing to do with my achievements. He gives my mother all the credit as he hoists her up on the pedestal she is certain she belongs on. The boomer pedestal. I had to hear about the fact that they got me glasses and braces when I was a kid. Your teeth are crooked and you can't see. Gee, that's what you're supposed to do. Again, another boomer wanting credit for shit you're supposed to do. I got to hear him bring up stupid shit about when I was 10 or 12 years old and got into a fight with an asshole and took my father's glasses for some reason. He wanted to know why I took his glasses all those years ago. How the fuck am I supposed to remember something like that? Why did I take your glasses when I was 10? Why did you allow her to threaten to ruin my childhood and then throw me out at 18? I got some fucking questions, motherfucker. Who is you? Who is you to be asking me a question like that? Your glasses. I ought to slap your glasses off your face for even asking me a goddamn question like that. After what you did. I emailed my father the letter I had read to my mother in December, and he acted like he didn't have a clue why I didn't want to have anything to do with his wife. Before our last conversation, I was going to arrange for him to talk to my therapist and try to make him understand how I have been feeling. Waste of time. Waste of fucking time. Waste of time. However, because of the COVID-19 issues, we would not have been able to meet with my therapist in her office. She would, with my permission, call him and speak to him without my presence. During my last in which he will lie about what was said, and it is. Don't do it. He ain't worth it. He's not worth it. During my last conversation with my father, however, he let me know how much stress my estrangement from his wife is causing him. Right. No stress when she threw you out, though. That didn't cause him any stress, right? A red flag went off in my head, and I realized that he would likely bash me to my therapist, and I wouldn't be there to defend myself. I told him to forget about talking to my therapist, and I told him that if my issues with his wife were causing him grief, he should probably schedule an appointment with a therapist of his own. Prior to this last conversation, I truly thought he loved me, but now I think that he too may be a narcissist, in addition to a flying monkey. His wife has always been and will always be more important than I am. I think I need to go no contact with my father. Would you agree? Yep. Another concern I have is that my Mother's Day is coming up this Sunday, and it would be a cold day in hell before I send his wife a card. Oh, by the way, prior to this Sunday, I always went out and purchased my mother nice cards for every occasion. And you know how difficult it is to find a Mother's Day card that does not lie and produce feelings of disgust and nausea. If I happen to deserve a card for any occasion, in her opinion, I would get a lousy generic freebie card from disabled American veterans that has been taking up space in her kitchen cabinet. When I called her out on this fact, when I read her letter previously mentioned, she said, if it's that important to you that I spend $5 on a piece of paper, I will. The cards you get me are very nice, but I look at them once and that's it. Sorry I got off track, but I'm concerned that my father will call me and give me grief for not acknowledging Mother's Day. I'm not planning to answer my phone if he calls, but I do not know what else to do. I'm sure I will feel guilty about it. I'm seething with anger, as you can imagine. Another concern is that I have some things in my shed in my parents' yard that I would like to retrieve. What would be the best way to get things out without causing too much conflict? Well, like I said, if they're gone 5 to 6 months out of the year and the stuff's in the shed, just go get it when they're gone. If not, is there anything, if it's been there for years and you haven't had it for years, you don't need it in the first place. Just let it go. Let it go. Okay? Those are anchors. Those are anchors to your abuse, and you don't need them. You don't need them. You put up with this boomer bullshit for 51 years. And you didn't even see that your freaking parents were the root of all of this until pretty recently. I mean, you're just now realizing your father, who had been there the entire time, allowing you to be abused, he might be a part of the problem too. You don't need contact with any of them ever again. Ever again. Okay? Your mother was being honest with you for one time in her life. Even though she wouldn't come out and say the words, she was telling you, I don't give a shit. You got to care about yourself, because I sure as fuck aren't. That's the baby boomer. That's what they did. So, I hope that helps. Thank you so much, Anonymous, for your contribution and your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to have a private video made, or you'd just like to make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all of this goes away, and trust me, YouTube and Google are going to make that happen sooner than later. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.